My gang is sexy. We have played one turn in a most fearful sacrifice. And I gotta admit, it was kind of fun. All right. It'll still be 3 or 4 turns before I have, I think, the rules under my belt well enough to just sort of move through the game quicker. But that being said, I don't think I really struggled with any of this stuff. Is kind of not necessarily. I did read some of the stuff about the cards and everything, but this kind of playing as you go thing. A lot of us do that. I do it quite a bit. But this one here, this game. All right, so first thing you got to remember when you're playing this system as opposed to Blind Swords, because I have not played Shattered Union yet. I don't have a Shattered Union game. So, you remember in Blind Swords, the artillery has that phase where they can do their bombarding or moving, and that's it. Not in this game. All right, you have that phase, but it functions a little differently in this game here. Each side automatically gets one artillery brigade activation, so to speak, in that preliminary phase. If you want to use other brigades of artillery, then what you'll end up doing is randomly removing event cards for every artillery brigade additionally that you want to fire in that phase. I think that's good. Their explanation is like if you're prepping for an attack, you might want to focus some artillery fire. Think of Pickett's charge. On July 3rd, when they focused all that artillery, well, most of it was focused on Cemetery Ridge, Cemetery Hill. Of course, it was pretty much ineffective, but they were trying to prep that defensive line, maybe break it up, shatter it, scatter, get some of the artillery pieces off of there, and maybe break up some of that infantry before their infantry went on the attack. Well, same premise here. That provides that. So maybe in this case here, maybe I had multiple artillery brigades back here, which I don't right now. This first turn there's only one. And I want to prep McPherson's Ridge or the hill McPherson's here where his farm is right here. I want to prep that before my infantry gets there. Okay, so I started with that phase. And in this game here, the potential for your artillery to fire multiple times in the turn is built in. And it's pretty cool. And I ran into it right off the bat. The first shot I fired from Union guns sitting here on McPherson's Ridge hit. Was it these guys? It hit. There were 2 batteries stacked over here. I think it was right here. And they got a no effect. Okay. Well, in the other games for fire CRT, you just moved on. Not in this one here. That no effect can actually mean something. And I'll explain that here in a second. So, but we rolled doubles. We rolled a 22. So I went to the chart and there was a caisson explosion, which caused 3 units in this hex to just freak out. All right. Shaken, run away, whatever, skedaddle, whatever you want to call it. So that happened. But in another fire event, they got the no effect on the target, but the CR rating plus the red dice roll provided an FF result where the targeted hex got to sort of return fire. Much like in GBACW, where if you shoot at a unit with artillery and it happens to be artillery, that artillery can fire back at the artillery that shot at it. Let me tell you something. That happened 4 times in this first turn. and then you got these event cards, which I probably need to validate. Maybe Hermann will pick this one up. If you use an event card as a default event, can an artillery unit fire again using that default event? Or is that a case where they cannot fire? I only did that, I think, once, maybe twice, where I fired this Confederate gun sitting here 2 extra times using a default event. So Herman, if you hear this one, validate that one for me, please. All right, so Harry Heath's card, or the 3rd Corps card, was the last card in the draw pile. It didn't come up to the last play. So he was just getting shelled and shot at from the start before he even got a chance to move in his attack. Now, however, he did move eventually, and he got up in here and he drove some of Devon's cavalry off, all right? The problem is while all this was happening, before he even got to move, Cutler, who starts over here to the left, he's already in front of McPherson's Ridge, in front of the cavalry. Buford his card came up early, so he wasn't going to pull off until infantry got there. And then if you look down the roads here, First Corps or Meredith's Brigade, the Iron Brigade, they're coming. All right. And over there, some of the 11th Corps coming up. They only got one brigade to activate in their turn. And then one of the cards, the CIC card for Reynolds, I think it was Reynolds, came up. And I got to do a whole division. So Robinson's division from the 1st Corps, the 2nd Division of the 1st Corps, they moved. So, and on that road. So they're moving pretty quick. So we're going to be starting the 10 a.m. turn here in a minute. And I guess they'll start to get, I don't know if they'll get there this turn, depending on how the cards fall, but they might. All right, so there you have it. Dismounted cavalry can retreat before combat, which is what I ended up doing here. I didn't do it here. They didn't take any beating, but they lost. They had to move off their hex. Wasn't about to try to close assault this guy here, all right? The card draw, this is my first. Well, I played Napoleonic Wars, but this is my first real card game. And it took me almost no time at all to understand, okay, the cards replace some of those, the chit draw we used to do in the blinds, or that we do in the blind sword system. But it has the same effect, plus it has a few added abilities to it. So when you draw a corps activation card, which you don't draw for divisions or brigades in this game, you draw a corps card. And when you draw a corps card, you got to roll a dice to get the option. All right. Any of those things in red is there's no secondary dice to roll. But if you get one of these like a 5 or 6, you're going to roll a dice, and then you're going to go over to the division card and see who gets activated. All right. So, and it's pretty cool. And then another cool thing is the Fog of War card. All the events are built right on the Fog of War card. No chart to go look at. It's all right here. And granted, I got to go look at the rules to make sure I understand what each one of these does. But I think that's pretty nice. Yeah, I know. Everybody... The tables, I'm getting older. I can't read them. And I went and printed off the ones on Board Game Geek. All of them except for the combat results and the assault combat table. Yeah, they're slightly better, but still not big enough for my taste. I would take a chance myself at doing this, but I don't know if I would have the patience to do this. I mean, they're fine. They're usable. I just got to get in a little close and look at them. And I do like the ones that came with the game, but like I said, it's too tiny to read. I have to have a magnifying glass to look at it, just with my vision. And you youngsters out there, you probably don't have any problems with it. So, because I remember in the old days, some of the games I had with small charts, I didn't have any issues with it. So, okay, so I'm having some fun with this. Like I said, I had to shoot the first turn because I know people want to see how it's going. So, Heath's attack has started. Pettigrew's going to show up here, I'm sure, shortly with Garnett's artillery and probably more of the 3rd Corps artillery to give some more force to this. But the Iron Brigade is on its way. The 11th Corps, is on its way. And Robinson's division is on its way. So let's see how this thing develops. Gotta love the map. Yeah, I'm a paper map guy. But this is okay. This works. It's pretty. The hexes are gigantic. The counters are gigantic. Got no issue reading those whatsoever. All right. All the components, like I said, except for the small text on the charts, all the components are really, 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 really nice. And quite, other than having a lot of cards that have different categories, there's really not a ton of components. I mean, the charts, I'm not going to say the charts are minimal, but they're not like overbearing. There's not way too many of them. The command display is pretty simple. So, but cool is if we could have got those like embedded on the map in the off areas where there's really no action going on, that would have been kind of interesting to do. But they work just fine. Like I say, they're all sitting over there on my table. So, you've got one for the Confederates, you got 2 for the Union, and you can look at one of those division cards over here. So there's Schertz's, whoops, move away here. There's the Schertz's card for the 11th Corps. And it just, when you roll a secondary dice, it'll tell you, see, he's even got one that says no orders, where he might get activated, then he doesn't even activate a brigade. He certainly doesn't activate any artillery. So that's right, because the Union has Corps and Army artillery assignments. That's why. All right, so yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Let's get this posted so you can see how I'm getting started with this, how Hexy's playing with this. All right, one turn probably took me an hour, maybe an hour and a couple minutes. Of course that's first attempts, but enjoying so far. Not too complicated, and it's worth a play. We're going to push on and see how much farther we can get this thing. All right, let's get this up. Talk to y'all later.